Number 10, Will Smith. Kicking off our list is husband, father, and it turns out ex Will Smith. In season 3, episode 12 of the series, Jada invited her husband Will onto the show so they could speak openly and publicly about the alleged relationship between herself and singer August Alsina during their brief separation in 2015. The singer claimed that he had to have Will's blessing to begin the relationship despite the pair technically being separated at the time and, well, beyond that. Jada confirmed the relationship did in fact take place, but they were on a break. She denies that Will ever gave August permission, but when referring to the situation as an entanglement, Will snaps and makes her correct herself to say relationship instead. While it may have been playful, seeing Will Smith get mad at all after 2022 just brings pure anxiety into my soul. Number 9, Leah Remini. The world of science. It's the gift that keeps on giving. In 2015, Leah Remini wrote a memoir called Troublemaker. In the book, Leah recounts seeing Jada appearing at scientific gatherings, specifically talking about one instance in particular when Jada refused to participate in a game of hide and seek with Tom Cruise in his backyard. Why does that sound like a dream that I had? When asked on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live for her side of the story, Pinkett Smith said that she remembered things differently and that the game was more like adults innocently playing hide and seek rather than an actual thing. Remini says that she took this as textbook fair gaming, a strategy with scientific folk where they mock and then unrelentingly discredit critics of their beliefs. On Red Table Talk, Smith explained a series of tweets defending her family and their religious beliefs, and later stated that she actually grew up in a fairly liberal household and was allowed to explore all religions and just kind of chose which ones that she liked for herself. Remini reminded Pinkett Smith of her high celebrity status, stating that she was interrogated for months after simply asking one member of the crew where the leader's wife was, like not if she was alive, just how she was doing. Things ended civilly between the two, with both agreeing that despite the feud and misunderstanding, that it's never too late to heal. Ew. Number 8, Nick Cannon. TV personality and full-time baby maker Nick Cannon has been open about his disdain for the series for quite some time, denying multiple requests to actually show up on Red Table Talk. After the show's cancellation, Cannon took to Twitter to express his joy, stating that the show was toxic and added that there was too much honesty on a program, saying that he just wanted to mind his own business and asked if everyone else could do the same thing. He also claimed that if it weren't for his involvement with the program, that husband Will Smith would have never even thought of touching Chris Rock's face, but we now know that that's not the case. I understand the hate. Red Table Talk got into too much information territory way too many times to be a normal talk show, and Jada seeks out reasons to bring her family on the air constantly. I'm all for family drama, but maybe not in front of a camera being recorded to share with millions of people, especially got a book coming out anyway. Number 7, Tom Segura. Comedian Tom Segura was one of many celebrities to speak out after the now infamous Chris Rock incident at 2022. Now, I will be paraphrasing the things Tom says, as I don't want to just quote a series of bleeps over and over again. It gets rough. Tom tweeted, "This girl has been bald. Jokes about it or her are fine. It was tame AF. You super sensitive about it? Buy a wig." Boom. Roasted. While Pinkett Smith hasn't herself commented on the posts, many fans were quick to defend Jada and call out the comedian as a bully. Fans of Segura know his style, and he kept to that, responding to the haters, comparing their sensitivity to a certain member of his anatomy, before posting a video of him landing in New York City and stating, "Just landed in NYP, you dusty bald-headed snitches. See you at the show." Personally, I'd love to see Jada and Tom go head-to-head in a roast battle. If we could put that on the air instead of everything that's been on the air, that would be great. Number 6, Gabrielle Union. The beef started 17 years ago, a long time to hold a grudge, but why? Well, they don't really know. Jada brought Gabrielle onto the show to address the fact that despite the two always crossing paths and being cold with each other, that neither could remember what caused the tension. Union called Jada on the phone, and they both attempt to piece together what exactly left such a terrible taste in each other's mouth. They tried and tried, but they could not remember, and eventually Union agreed to appear on the show, where the two just kind of put the past behind them and they laughed it off, chalking it up to the drama of young divas. They had a good time on the show, just catching up and discussing life, and it actually apparently turned out pretty okay. I know this is supposed to be negative, but hey, let's all take a deep breath and just enjoy the fact that there was an okay conversation on that show one time, and only one time. Everything else is very bad. Number 5, August Alsina. Mentioned previously in the list, August Alsina is a rapper and the former love interest of the star of our list, Jada Pinkett Smith. The two first met in 2015 at a concert for Jaden and Willow Smith, and their connection was was instant. The two became very good friends as August was going through some substance control issues at the time, and Smith was this helpful hand that he needed. This would explain why over time their relationship turned romantic after Jada and Will took their brief break from their marriage, but Jada wasn't left alone. August told radio host Angela Yee that he truly and really deeply loved her. That is a direct quote. Unfortunately for August, Jada thought it would be a wonderful idea to bring out her husband Will and air out their dirty laundry on Red Table Talk. August was revealed as a secret lover, but the Smiths say that they reached a level of unconditional love within their marriage. But we all know that they've been separated for 7 years, so that was bull poo poo. Number 4, Jaden Smith. Another member of the Smith family, Jaden is remembered by many as the little guy from the Karate Kid remake, but he's now mainly known for his singing chops and fashion abilities actually. Jaden has been living in the shadow of his father from day one, being thrust into the limelight before he even hit double digits. With famous parents comes challenges, and one of those challenges seems to be a lack of hugs. The Smith kids are famously left to their own devices and have been financially independent from a very young age, meaning they never really had to ask mom and dad to help buy them something because they just did it themselves. They had the money. They can make that much now. Episode of Table Talk, Jaden confronts his mother on the way he was raised, claiming the style of parenting ruined his life and his ability to connect with people. Jaden has consistently been a good soul in the media and is extremely loyal to his fan base, something that he most certainly didn't learn from his mother. Number 3, Khloe Kardashian. Khloe Kardashian is an American personality and socialite present in the media for years, starring alongside her fellow family members on the hit show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Khloe released a series of tweets a while back claiming that men blaming the women in the relationship for all of their issues was invalid and hurtful. While this is true sometimes, many have called out the star in her comments during a very famous interview from Red Table Talk in which Jordan Woods came forward and told the truth about an alleged cheating scandal. The man in question, Tristan Thompson, claimed that Jordan performed a number of provocative activities, but she denied many of those claims. Despite this, Khloe publicly blamed Jordan for the breakup in her family and names her as an enemy. During all this, Jada Smith just kind of sat back, watched, and laughed while everything was happening, sipping her tea in a red chair. Number 2, Chris Rock. In 2022, Chris Rock was hosting the 94th annual Oscars when he decided to make a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and her hair loss. It was a great joke. Immediately following the joke, which landed for everybody else in the audience, Will Smith stood up, walked on stage, and clocked Chris in the face. Now, initially this was seen as a joke between the two, but then Will started shouting several times at Chris to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. It's still burned into my memory to this day. Chris handled the situation well, getting back to the festivities and just kind of keeping the night going along. But then, Will Smith won the Oscar for Best Actor. Rock took to social media to address the controversy and let everybody know that he meant no harm and felt the response to have been highly extreme. He also claims that if Jada had found the joke funny, nothing would have happened. In fact, moments before walking on stage, you can see Will Smith giggling. It's almost like she whispered, "Get him." And then it activated some kind of a destruct code. Jada posted several videos claiming that Rock was dragging the situation out too long and to put the past behind him. "I'm sorry, Smith family, no Ben and Black mind eraser things here. Those aren't real. That was just a movie." It's just a movie, Nate. Number 1, Cherie Zampino. Don't recognize that name? Well, only hardcore Will Smith fans might, because Cherie is Will's ex-wife. Briefly married in the mid-90s, Will and Cherie were adorable together, regularly appearing at red carpet events and movie premieres. Adorable and inseparable. It's so cute. But behind the scenes, things weren't peachy at all. It was revealed on an episode of Red Table Talk that Jada Pinkett Smith briefly partook in an affair with Will in 1995. Jada claims that Cherie and Will were towards the end of their relationship and was simply in her eyes dating a newly divorced man. She would later admit that technically that wasn't true, and while Will was divorced, hadn't really come into play yet. Cherie discovered what was taking place and went off on the couple, and not long after, ended the marriage. In 2018, the two got back together to speak candidly about the incident on Red Table Talk. Just another one of the terrible episodes that I truly recommend that you don't watch. A lot of information has been dropped about Jada Pinkett Smith and the Smith family in general in a very short amount of time, thanks to, well, Jada. Last week, she decided to do an interview with the Today Show ahead of the release of her book Worthy, which has already received some of the worst Amazon reviews ever. There are a few things that we'll get into later on that were revealed, but you clicked because you want to know about Jada's relationship to the late Tupac Shakur. Jada revealed that they met as teens while attending the Baltimore School of the Arts in Maryland. They became very close to the point where they had apparently tossed around the idea of getting together as a couple, but ultimately decided against it. As the years went by, they remained friends, with Jada admitting at one point that she was partly to blame for Tupac's introduction to the world of narcotics and subsequently his passing. While the knowledge of her surface level friendship with Tupac was pretty common, there was a secret aspect that they never shared until it would help her, sell book copies. Tupac actually proposed to Jada while he was in jail. On an episode of All the Smoke, a podcast featuring former NBA players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson that is set to premiere on the 19th, Jada shared the revelation about herself and Shakur being a secret item, and it was shared in a little teaser clip online. For some background, in 1995, Tupac was arrested and sentenced to almost 4 years in prison for physically mistreating a fan. According to archival news articles from around that time, Tupac delivered a tearful apology in court, but he was adamant that he hadn't committed any crimes. Well, I read the details of what the lady was claiming that he did, and yeah, he committed a few crimes. The whole court case was just weird. There were fans there supporting him when the crime was just so bad, but moving on from that, Tupac served 8 months of his total sentence before being bailed out by Suge Knight, the co-founder of an awesome record company that has a no-no word in the title, Seth Row Records. You can just replace Seth with whatever you want. While Tupac was serving his 8 months, Jada Pinkett Smith visited him at Rikers Island, where she claims that seeing her friend behind bars was the most painful part of their encounter. This guy forced himself on a fan. Why are so many people back then just like, aw, poor guy? During their exchanges, she claimed that Tupac had proposed to her. According to Jada, he wanted somebody to go through everything with him, which was something that she had been planning on doing anyway. She told him that they didn't have to get married if all he wanted was a partner in crime. At the end of the day, the proposal amounted to very little, which is odd considering that in another recent interview, Jada literally called Tupac her soulmate, something that she never says about Will Smith, but she also claims that herself and Tupac had no chemistry, which is why they worked better as friends. I don't know. While speaking with Steve Bartlett on his Diary of a CEO podcast, Jada actually read out the letter that Tupac wrote to her from behind bars, proposing. In the letter, he claimed that following a spiritual awakening, he had come to realize that his love and his soulmate was in front of him all along. He had not seen or felt from anywhere or anyone the intensity and loyalty that she had shown him. The intensity and loyalty. He said he was ready to commit to himself and to Jada and asked her to marry him. As I mentioned, she declined, but they did remain close friends until an argument only a couple of months before his passing. Following his release from prison, Jada had a disagreement with him on his behavior. Apparently, the minute that this guy got out of jail, he was right back to doing what got him there in the first place. She explained with tears in her eyes that they had a massive falling out that ended in screaming and shunning. Jada claims that she's usually the one to reach out and make amends, but this time she waited for Tupac to make the move, and of course, he never did, and that chapter closed. Many people believe she never spoke about the proposal because then people would just know that there was something between her and Tupac, romantically or not. However, a ton of TikTok users are suggesting that this entire Tupac proposal thing is actually just a lie fabricated by Jada to help her sell more copies of her book. Timing kind of makes sense. I mean, they did just arrest the guy that took him out like a month ago. There are several specific breakdowns on the timeline of her relationship to her marriage to Will and everything in between that shows that there's no clear time when she could have visited Tupac in jail. But at the same time, we're not Jada Pinkett Smith, so we have no idea what she did when and for how long, and TikTok super sleuth or not. Jada's estranged husband, Will Smith, and yes, we do have to refer to him as that from now until the end of time, would have gone ballistic if that information had been shared with the world while he was still married to Jada. But being married has never stopped Jada Pinkett Smith from trying to humiliate this man. Ahead of the release of the book Worthy, Jada has just been dropping secret after secret with no remorse for her her actions. For starters, she of course outed herself and Will to the world as being secretly separated for like 7 years, and she also revealed that Chris Rock tried to ask her out during this massive wave of cheating rumors that plagued them in 2016. Oh, and of course, Will Smith didn't even know any of this was in Jada's book, or that she felt that it was necessary to share the secrets on TV before the book even got released. Will Smith has responded to the interviews and the book in general, and hey, a surprise, he's not super happy about it. Surprise, surprise, Will Smith is actually super neutral on the whole thing. Will had the chance to actually read this book, and according to him, he was heartbroken. Despite living with this woman for a large chunk of his life, he was still shocked at all of the things that he didn't know. Despite the dirty laundry being aired though, Will apparently just doesn't care. Maybe like Jada, he's just happy to see his name in a headline without Oscars or Chris Rock written in it. Speaking of Chris Rock, did you know that he once asked Jada Pinkett Smith out while she was still married to Will Smith? Well, it was in 2016 when the couple were plagued by divorce rumors, but it's still pretty neat and we're gonna chat about it. At the time, Chris either had some inside information or he just believed everything that he was reading online, because according to Jada, he reached out to, make his move. He called and said that he would love to take her out, to which she was like, why? And he clarified that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce. That was kind of what was in the headlines at the time. Well, when she revealed that that wasn't the case, Chris was so embarrassed and began to apologize over and over and over. Though they eventually moved past it, it might explain why Will Smith was just so aggressive towards Chris Rock at the Oscars. I mean, there is no way that he didn't know Chris did that to Jada. Chris got some revenge on the couple though during his live taping of Chris Rock's Selective Outrage, his Netflix stand-up special, where he laid into the couple furiously. His special was filled with a lot of jokes, but he closed out the night with a little roast of Will and Jada. He started by saying that he had nothing to do with the slap. Will had selective outrage. Chris didn't have any entanglement, so why was Will so mad at him? He then repeatedly called Will Smith the B word and then moved on to roast Jada. He said that he was just shocked when she attempted to have him removed as the host of the Oscars in 2016 during the whole Oscars so white controversy, begging the question, how could Jada boycott an event that she wasn't even invited to? The roasts were devastating, and Chris is the king. Believe it or not, before the whole Oscars thing, Chris and Will were actually on fairly good speaking terms. They weren't best friends or anything, but they certainly weren't mortal enemies who were ready to strike each other down at the mention of one of their wives. They first met on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in the day when Rock played two characters, an actor named Maurice Perry and his sister Jasmine. They bumped into each other a lot over the years, but Chris eventually starred alongside Jada in Madagascar, the animated movie, which I didn't know that because I didn't read the credits growing up. I'm too cool for that. Between Madagascar 1 and the Oscars in 2022, things were apparently very neutral with these guys and there was no bad juju between them. But suddenly, at the behest of his wife Jada, he felt that it was necessary to stand up and defend her name with physical violence. But that's the thing about all of this information being leaked regarding Will and Jada. If she hasn't been with Will for like 7 years, why did he feel that it was necessary to defend her and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars? A lot of fans have flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding the incident from 2022, and if you don't remember, you're weird. Chris Rock made fun of Jada for being bald and then Will smacked her in retaliation. That's basically what it boiled down to. If he had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special, who knows what would have happened. It might have been an actual MMA fight. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in a weird mental state, it was really no excuse for his outburst, especially if he had not been romantically involved with Jada in years. The main point being made by a lot of people is that despite Will and Jada separating, that they remained close friends. In that instance, Will was defending his very good friend, but it's still no excuse for smacking Marty the zebra. Like, come on, man. Just watch Madagascar and calm down. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but that he was told Chris was not ready to talk. Either that or he was ready, but he knew that he would fly off the handle the moment that he heard Will's voice. Many fans believed that they knew Will and Jada had split for certain thanks to all the interview evidence from over the years. The first clip to be submitted as evidence was Will and Jada's Red Table Talk interaction, where she admitted to the entanglement with August Alsina and simultaneously admitted to a brief separation between the two. In the conversation, she literally says that herself and Will had basically broken up, but instead of just outright admitting the information right then and there, she decided to hold on to it for a better time. Many Jada fans have commented on the resurfaced clip, saying that Will looks drained and he's clearly dealing with a ton mentally speaking. speaking. Jada is a calculated woman. Why reveal all this juicy gossip so early in her life? She was probably ready to tell the world what happened as soon as it did, but held out the information as a way to give her a boost in the future if needed. Is it really a surprise that she's releasing all this information right when she's about to publish a book about all this information? Like, come on, give them the scoop so they have to buy it and get more. It's a good move, but it's very manipulative. Jada is making new headlines literally every single day. As more and more headlines come out, we will be delivering more and more deep dive news stories. Number 10. Cleopatra. This ill-fated TV series, Cleopatra, hit the air this year and received some of the worst reviews in human history. The show, produced and narrated by Jada, was released on Netflix and quickly became one of the most mocked properties on the platform. The series starred a woman of color in the leading role of the titular Egyptian, which caused many fans to call the casting choice cultural appropriation. Ironically, Cleopatra has almost always been played by a non-Egyptian actor, with Elizabeth Taylor being the most famous portrayal of all time. On top of the controversial casting choice, the overall show was terrible, and many complaints centered around the lazy dialogue, the bad acting, the historical inaccuracies. There is a ton of problems with this show, the main one being that it was set in the wrong time period while claiming to be a historically accurate series. Netflix had to deal with a lot of hardships thanks to the series, literally turning off the comments on the trailer due to the alarming amount of racially fueled and hostile commentary. The show sits at about 2% on Rotten Tomatoes and is unfortunately one of the few productions that Jada has under her belt. When a show that could have been great tanks hard and it's your fault, Hollywood tends to blame the producers. Number 9. Separation. Cheating rumors and dating scandals have followed this couple throughout their entire relationship. Since day one, people have been convinced that they're in an open relationship or that they've been cheating on each other on and off basically the entire time. But it turns out that those rumors were somewhat true. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine to share some inside info. The most revealing was that herself and Will Smith have actually been separated for 7 years. Despite appearing to be a happy couple on the outside, the truth was that they decided to go their separate ways, emotionally speaking, a long time ago. Since 2016, Jada and Will have been living in the same house and appearing on red carpets together, but behind the scenes they actually just don't do anything. They just sit at home and just kind of chill. Considering the massive size of Will's house, it's pretty easy to imagine Jada choosing her own section and decorating it to her liking. She continued to say that she felt pressured into being with Will because it was mainly his idea to get together in the first place. 2 kids and 1 marriage later, and here we are. Hollywood doesn't take too kindly to people who can't make up their minds. Number 8. Red Table Talk. For those of you who may not know, and lucky you, Jada ran a talk show for roughly 5 years called Red Table Talk. Unless you were glued to Facebook Watch, you probably missed out on this one. In 2018, Jada invited her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, and daughter Willow Smith to join her in an open conversation spanning 3 generations of women. Unfortunately, her show tended to drift into too much information territory, discussing topics between the family that really shouldn't be talked about with family, especially on a camera. Another rough part of the series was that Jada would often bring in celebrity guests to also discuss these topics, as well as confront their issues that they might have had. She even brought her husband Will onto the show at one point just to discuss the infidelity scandal that had plagued their relationship, one of the most uncomfortable interviews in the show's history, and that is saying something. It was decided in April of this year that Red Table Talk would be cancelled and removed from the platform. When you have a show that you not only starred in but created from top to bottom, it's 100% your fault when it eventually gets cancelled. The show is currently looking for a new home in the world of streaming, but has yet to land on one, thankfully. Number 7. After Earth. In 2013, Jada helped produce a film starring her husband Will and her son Jaden Smith. Will Smith came up with the idea for After Earth while watching a science show on TV. It's very special. Eventually, this evolved into a science fiction story that takes place in the year 1000 AE, or 1000 years after the human race has left the planet because of pollution and global warming. The plot featured a father and his teenage son who crash land on Earth, and the teenager must save his injured father on what has become a hostile planet. Yeah, I got bored talking about it. Smith developed the movie as a star vehicle for his 14-year-old son Jaden. The actor sold his post-apocalyptic vision to M. Night Shyamalan, and this high-budget vanity project was just a family affair. There was Jaden, Will, Jada, and even Jada's brother Caleb Pinkett Smith was a key member of the production. The $130 million Smith family movie hit the big screen in 2013, and it was horrible and scored 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics lambasted basically every single detail, including the plot that was just boring, and lifeless. Number 6. TMI. One thing that really did not need to be told to the entire world was the fact that Jaden Smith likes to do ayahuasca in his spare time and introduced his mother to the hallucinogen. In her tell-all interview promoting her tell-all book, she revealed that her son Jaden saved her life after introducing her to the ceremony during a dark time. While Jaden did not do it all the time, he had heard about the process and its benefits for mental health issues and suggested that, they give it a shot. She claims that after only a handful of uses that her negative thoughts went away. But Jaden has released a statement along with his sister begging their mother to stop saying things all the time. Keep some family stuff private. Jaden did not need the entire world to know his business or the business of his friend who gave him the advice when the substance is super illegal in most parts of the US and, the world. Jaden has every right to ask for some privacy. His entire life has been broadcasted for the world to see since the moment he stepped in front of a camera. Jada, chill. Number 5. The Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor is a comedy classic from the legendary performer Eddie Murphy based on a film from 1963 of the same name starring Jerry Lewis as the leading man. In the 96 remake, Jada Pinkett Smith portrayed Eddie's love interest Carla Purdy, and despite the film being this light-hearted romp sharing the message of self-love, people hated Jada in the movie. Of all the actors on the screen, Jada is the most out of place. While there wasn't a slew of massive A-listers on command, the cast involved did do a great job and everyone had their own little moments. However, Jada just kind of felt out of place. Her acting career has been limited over the years and probably for good reason, especially when you put her next to a comedy legend like Eddie Murphy. That would be like putting Jim Carrey and a tired sloth in a room together and telling them to have a rap battle. Jim Carrey's gonna win. Her performance in the film was enough to make securing work hard in the following years, but as you've seen and will continue to see, Hollywood gave her a second chance time and time again. Number 4. Gotham. Gotham is an underappreciated series from the world of DC Comics, and I really recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's set in Gotham City before Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, and we follow a young Jim Gordon as he deals with the criminals roaming Gotham streets. People like the Riddler, the Penguin, and of course, Jada Pinkett Smith as mob boss Fish Mooney. DC is great with names. Fish. The character acted as the frenemy of the Penguin, but whenever Jada was next to her co-star, Robin Lord Taylor, she was outshined every single time. In fact, she was outshined by basically everybody on that show. Anyone she stood next, even the extras. Her character was meant to be a scary bad guy that strikes fear into the hearts of those who encountered her, but instead Jada delivers this monotone performance that the producers quickly noticed. By the end of season 3, Fish was written out of the story and left to rot on the dock. Number 3. Scream 2. I want to start off by saying Scream 2 is not a bad movie, okay? The Scream franchise is actually pretty solid and is considered to be one of the best horror series of all time. Ghostface is iconic, and so is Jada's only good scene in the film when she's taken out by Ghostface. Spoiler alert! In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith plays one of the ill-fated teens, Maureen Evans. While this was actually one of her few decent performances, spoiler alert, I already said that, her character perishes towards the end of the movie. Yeah. She's taken out in a very graphic and public fashion. While watching the fictional Scream film in theaters, Jada cuddles up to who she thinks is her boyfriend, but is actually Ghostface in disguise. She gets repeatedly jabbed while the same thing is happening to a character on screen. And while this is one of the better scenes in Scream's history, it was the only scene where Jada came across as a good actor, and she was just kind of screaming and tumbling the whole time. The argument can be made that most young actors just kind of play themselves on screen, but sometimes it just feels like Jada forgot the camera was even rolling. Number 2, Oscars confusion. Now that all of this information about Jada and Will has been leaked into the world by Jada herself, one major question still lingers on everybody's mind. If she hasn't been with Will Smith for like 7 years, why did he feel that it was necessary to defend Jada and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars? Many fans have flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding this incident from 2022. If you don't remember, Chris Rock made fun of Jada for being bald, and Will Smith went up on stage and he took care of him, you know? If he had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special, who knows what would have happened. It was fantastic, but you gotta look that one up to know what I'm talking about. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in an odd mental state, it was really no excuse for his outburst, especially if he had not been romantically romantically involved with Jada in years. The main point being made by some people online is that despite Will and Jada separating, they remain close friends. So in that instance, Will was defending his very good friend, but there's still no excuse for causing Marty the Zebra pain. Marty the Zebra from Madagascar. It's a great movie. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but that he was told that Chris wasn't ready to talk. Either that or he was ready, but he knew that he would fly off the handle the second that he heard Will's voice. And at number 1, her biases. When the Oscars So White controversy erupted in 2016, Will and Jada were among the most vocal critics of the Academy. For the second year in a row, all 20 of the actors nominated in the leading and supporting roles were white, something that hadn't happened since 1998. Jada released a very publicized video explaining why she was boycotting the Oscars that year, hoping to shine a spotlight on institutional racism. However, the majority of Hollywood didn't appreciate the things that she was saying about them, not to mention, during an episode of Red Table Talk, the actress confessed her own tendency to judge others based on their race, revealing that she specifically had a problem with white, blonde women. According to Jada herself, blonde hair on a woman just sets her off, and she's had to hold herself back a few times. She went on to reveal that she had actually turned down several interviews over the years just because the person who was interviewing her was a blonde white lady. She claims that her bias is due to her history of being bullied by women with those physical traits growing up. Regardless of why she hates them, blonde white women make up a lot of Hollywood, so kinda makes sense that Jada would be placed on the do not hire list. Number 10. Lena Waithe. Back when Tessa Thompson was speaking about her role in the failed Men in Black reboot Men in Black International, she praised Will Smith for his original role in the first film, paving the way for people of color in Hollywood being able to bring their identities to a studio film. But other celebrities felt that Will hadn't done nearly enough for the acting community. Lena Waithe directed the thriller Queen and Slim in 2019 and noted that Brad Pitt's production company funded critical black-led films like 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight, calling out Will and Jada for having their own production company, but often using it just to make movies for Will. She said that you would never catch her making $20 million a movie and not paying for at least 4 or 5 independent films. Waithe actually received a ton of backlash for the statements after fans accused her of gratuitous violence in Queen and Slim, and later in the Amazon series Them that she produced. Number 9. Jaden Smith. One thing that really did not need to be told to the entire world was the fact that Jaden Smith likes to do ayahuasca in his spare time and introduced his mother to the hallucinogen. In her tell-all interview promoting her tell-all book, she revealed that her son Jaden saved her life after introducing her to the ceremony during a dark time. While Jaden did not do it all the time, he had heard about its benefits for mental health issues and suggested that they give it a shot. She claimed that after only a handful of uses, that her negative thoughts completely went away. Jaden has released a statement along with his sister, begging their mother to keep some things private at this time. Jaden did not need the entire world to know his business or the business of his friend when the substance is super duper illegal in most parts of the US. Jaden has every right to ask for some privacy. His entire life has been broadcasted for the world to see since the moment that he stepped foot in front of the camera. Number 8. Alyssa Farah Griffin. Co-host of The View, Alyssa Griffin wishes that Jada Smith would just stop airing her dirty laundry out for the entire world. On the talk show's Behind the Table podcast, she said that she always admired the married actors for their accolades, but just did not understand why they don't want to protect that. You know, why not keep things to yourself? Griffin added that Jada does not seem to care about Will's feelings and has neglected to consider him throughout this entire secret purge that she seems to be undergoing. She continued by calling her out for not filing a divorce despite being estranged and separated for 7 years, but Jada has always been adamant that she would never get a divorce no matter what the circumstances. But considering the past couple of weeks, we wouldn't be surprised if Will was filing that paperwork right now. Number 7. Willow Smith. Willow and her brother have had differing opinions on their parents for quite some time. As time's gone on, it's slowly been revealed that they basically raised themselves. With their parents being busy so often, they were usually left into the care of nannies or assistants until their late teens. Willow and Jaden both moved on from the acting world that they were set up to take part in and instead carved their own paths. Willow has a solid music career and Jaden made waves in the world of fashion. Willow has responded to to this information being released by her mother, and a lot like her brother, she just wishes that mom would stop telling everyone everything that they have ever done. It's not like they grew up in a super private environment, but they were able to keep some things to themselves, unlike her mother, who has to do a tell-all interview whenever she sneezes. Willow and her brother have publicly stated that they wish Jada would just leave their dad alone and keep private family stuff to herself. Number 6, Will Smith. Now, if there is anyone on this planet that has the right to not like Jada Pinkett Smith right now, it's her estranged husband, Will Smith. Seeing as they've secretly been separated for 7 years, he surely holds some tinge of frustration towards Jada. This man has endured public humiliation several times, both because of himself and because of Jada. In the past week alone, Jada has been revealing so much information about her marriage to Will and what has really been going on behind the scenes. Not only were they separated, but it's been revealed that she was in love with the late rapper Tupac Shakur. Will has been blindsided by every little piece of information and is taking it as well as he can. Jada's book isn't even out yet, and this man is already so stressed out. Of course he is starting to truly hate Jada. Number 5. Chris Rock. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada Pinkett Smith has revealed a ton of information once thought to be just rumors. Now, while we already know that her and Will have been separated for a long time, another fun piece of information that got revealed was, well, fun might not be the right word. Unique, maybe. Anyway, it was revealed that before Chris Rock was struck across the face by Will Smith at the Oscars, that he actually asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, when you hear that, you're probably like, oh, he asked her out before they ever met. But no, it was actually back in 2016, at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which turned out to be true. At the time, Chris either had some inside information, or he is just the most confident man on the planet, because according to Jada, Chris reached out to take a swing. He called and said that he'd love to take her out, to which she responded, "But why though?" He clarified and told Jada that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce for real, but when she revealed that that wasn't the case, Chris was so embarrassed he apologized over and over and over again. Chris responded to the revelation with nothing but fumes, and many believe that this could be one of the main reasons Will Smith did what he did at the Oscars. Number 4. August Alsina. The world was shocked when R&B singer August Alsina came forward to confirm one of the longest standing rumors around Jada and Will's marriage, admitting that he had an affair with Jada Pinkett Smith in 2015. During an interview, he claimed that he actually sat down with Will Smith and received his blessing due to the nature of their relationship shifting. He insisted that the couple had absolutely nothing to be ashamed of and that he loved the Smith family. While Will Smith denied ever giving him a blessing, in fact, he didn't even know that this was a thing until he heard about it from Jada. Jada admitted to the entanglement on Red Table Talk when she explained to her husband that it was a moment she regretted, all the while referring to the infidelity as an entanglement. While many were of course confused as to why she would admit this on the internet for millions to see, they were also wondering if she might have taken advantage of August back in the day, because at the time he was only 22 and he had struggled with his health, suffering from an autoimmune condition that left him hospitalized multiple times. Jada even admitted to being his mentor at the time. Yikes. Number 3. Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle and Jada collided several times on the red carpet as their careers would often intertwine with each other. You might know Gabrielle from Bring It On or the comedy classic Meet Dave, and you might want to forget Jada from Scream 2 and The Nutty Professor. However, when they were together, there was just this awkward vibe. Apparently, Jada didn't speak to Gabrielle for 17 years of their interactions, and neither of them could figure out what caused it. Gabrielle claimed that there was just always tension between the two every time that they would see each other. Unexplained, it was just always there. A few years ago, Jada reached out to her to clear things up, and the conversation ended with them agreeing that they were both just divas at the time with diva mentalities. Jada invited Union on Red Table Talk, which is cancelled, and said that she needed to apologize for her behavior, claiming she was in a terrible place and is in a much better one now. Union later apologized on Today and shared that they were both insecure, and that's what caused the rift. But it's very convenient that she was ready to talk once she had a platform to record the conversation onto. Make a little money while the celebrity apologizes to you online. Mint. Number 2, 50 Cent. Jada and her entanglement with August Alsina was news that shocked the world when it was revealed on Red Table Talk. For 50 Cent, this was the most annoying thing he has ever dealt with in his life. Following the revelation, social media users were flocking to Instagram, sharing their opinions and messaging their friends, including 50 Cent. He contacted Will, his buddy, and ended up cursing him out. 50 asked him why Jada said that on a show for the world to see, adding that she said only she can give permission for someone to blow her back out. Why did he have to use such crude language? Will responded with more swearing, and in October of 2021, 50 decided to comment on their marriage again, having the same issues that a ton of people are having with Jada right now, and that is that she's picking and choosing her moments to make things happen and revealing information about her book because it's stirring the pot. If you watch interviews where she reveals all the information, you can see her kind of zoning out and faking her way through her interactions, all the while just manically laughing in her head. 50 posted on his Instagram asking Jada why she had to share her life story with the world when it just called her character into question. And at number 1, Leah Remini. For those who don't know, Jada lives in a world of science. Now I can't talk about what that means. If you ever Google L. Ron Hubbard and science though, you will know what I'm talking about. Leah Remini, who you might know from King of Queens or Old School, is more than just an actor. She's also very outspoken against Jada's beliefs. The rumors that Will and Jada were big into science were something that Leah mentioned in her book, Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Weird Science, and brought it up again when speaking to the Daily Beast in 2017. She claimed to know for certain that Jada was involved for a long time. She had never seen Will Smith attending any events, however she did spot Jada attending one at the Celebrity Center in Hollywood. Jada clapped back on Twitter, naming all of the houses of worship that she's visited without being a member. A year later, Leah appeared on the now cancelled Red Table Talk. I know you know it's cancelled, I just want to remind you. After the interview, Jada gushed about how they connected in the interview, claiming that there were just 2 broken little babies inside both of them who were abandoned by their parents. And Leah just thought that that lady was crazy. Number 10, the 7-year separation. Kicking off the list is of course the cheating rumors and dating scandals that have followed this couple throughout their entire relationship. Since day one, people have been convinced that they're in an open relationship, or maybe that they've been cheating on each other on and off the entire time, but it turns out that those rumors were kinda true. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine to share some inside information. The most revealing was that herself and Will Smith have actually been separated for 7 years now. Despite appearing to be a happy couple on the outside, the truth was they decided to go their separate ways, emotionally speaking, a long time ago. Since 2016, Jada and Will have been living in the same house and appearing on red carpets together, but behind the scenes they actually just don't do anything together. Considering the massive size of Will's house, it's pretty easy to imagine Jada choosing her own section and just like decorating it to her liking. She continued to say that she felt pressured into being with Will in the first place because it was mostly his idea to get together. 2 kids and 1 marriage later, it would appear that Jada finally came to her senses and just decided to separate from Will entirely. Number 9, dating Chris Rock. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada has revealed a ton of information that were once thought to be just rumors. Now, while we've already covered the fact that she's been separated from Will for like 7 years, another fun piece of information was revealed. I don't know if fun's the right word to use, maybe unique. Anyway, it was revealed that before Chris Rock was struck across the face by Will Smith live at the Oscars, Chris had actually asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, I'm sure that when you hear that, you must think, oh, he asked her out before they even met. Nope, that actually took place in 2016 at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which, again, turned out to just be so true. At the time, Chris either had some inside information, or maybe his belief, or he just believes everything he's read online. According to Jada, Chris reached out to see if he could, get her attention. He called and said that he would love to take her out, which she was like, why? He clarified and told Jada that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce. Like, right, that's what he just heard. Well, when she revealed that this wasn't the case, Chris was so embarrassed and just started apologizing over and over. Though they eventually moved past the moment, it might explain why Will Smith was so aggressive with Rock at the Oscars. There's no way he's unaware of that situation. Number 8, divorce. Jada revealed that despite her and Will being separated for 7 years, that getting a legitimate divorce was out of the question. While they haven't been a proper couple for a very long time, Jada has always been adamant that she would never file the paperwork to properly separate from Will for good. Over the years, they have been at each other's side, and even after the secret separation, they were seen together as if nothing had happened. While they presented a united front, conversations later on the matter suggested that the two had actually spoken about it at one point or another. another. During Will's appearance on Jada's now cancelled show, Red Table Talk, the topic of divorce came up once again. Will said that he'd never get a divorce because it was something that he had already done and he tried to avoid it if possible. Jada laughed and said, yeah, that's not an option. But when she had Toni Braxton on as a guest, she claimed that she simply just wasn't mature enough to get divorced, which made it sound like that she was down to leave Will, but she just couldn't at that time. Well, considering the amount of media attention that this news is getting, something tells me she might be filing that paperwork sooner than we think. Number 7. Interview evidence. When Jada revealed the truth about her separation from Will, she claimed that by the time they reached 2016, they had become exhausted with trying to make things work. The news of their separation was like a mild shock at best, because Super Sleuth fans claimed to have proof that Will and Jada had been separated. The proof was in the interviews. The first clip to be submitted as evidence was Will and Jada's Red Table Talk interaction, in which she admitted to the entanglement with musician August Alsina, but she simultaneously admitted to a brief separation between her and Will. In the conversation, she literally says that herself and Will had basically broken up, but instead of just outright admitting the information right then and there, she decided to hold on to it for a better time. Many Jada fans have commented on the resurfaced clip, saying that Will looks drained, clearly dealing with a ton mentally speaking. Jada is a calculated woman, why reveal all this juicy gossip so early in her life, right? She was probably ready to tell the world what happened as soon as it did, but held on to the information as a way to give her a boost in the future. Is it really a surprise that she's releasing all this information right when she's about to publish a book? Huh? Give them a scoop so they have to buy it and get more information. Good move, but a manipulative one at that. Number 6. That's what she said. As we all know by now, Will Smith doesn't like Chris Rock putting his wife's name in his mouth. After the altercation that took place at the Oscars in 2022, a ton of people were convinced that it was Jada who told Will Smith to do it. Will was laughing moments before taking the stage and doing his thing. According to Jada, she actually had zero part in that altercation and thought the entire thing was a skit right up until she saw Will walking back towards his seat. The fury in this man's eyes could not be faked. She revealed that she actually didn't mind the G.I. Jane joke all that much. Sure, she didn't appreciate it, but according to her, she in no way told Will Smith to go strike her Madagascar co-star. The first thing that she had apparently said to him when he sat down was simply, "Are you okay?" Something in Will snapped. He went up to accept his award for Best Actor and later apologized for his actions. Despite the apology, he was banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years, and so far, he has not spoken to Chris Rock face to face. Speaking of the Oscars, number 5. Oscars confusion. Now that all this information is being leaked into the world by Jada herself, there's been one major question still lingering on everybody's mind. If she hasn't been with Will for over 7 years, why did he feel that it was necessary to defend her and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars? Many fans have flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding this incident. If you don't remember, in 2022, Chris Rock made fun of Jada being bald and Will smacked him for that. That's it. If he had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special, who knows what would have happened, but I'm gonna talk about that in a couple minutes. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in this odd mental state, it really was no excuse for his outburst, especially if he had not been romantically involved with Jada in years. Main point being made by some is that despite Will and Jada separating, they remained close friends. In that instance, Will was defending his very good friend, which is still no excuse for causing Marty the Zebra pain. Man, I love Madagascar. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but that he was told Chris just isn't ready to talk. Either that, or Chris was ready, but he knew he'd fly off the handle the moment that he heard Will's voice. Number 4. Jaden and Willow. Of course, rumors had been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. Their upbringing was a little different. Jaden was on track to being an actor after starring in the 2008 remake of Karate Kid alongside Jackie Chan, the greatest man on earth, but later shifted his focus to a more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which he's actually been pretty successful in doing. And his sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots and made quite the name for herself in the hip-hop world. Now, unfortunately, their behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling out their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers and now we know separated, there was never anybody home to actually take care of them. Jaden and Willow recount spending most of their childhood with various nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents between projects or if they got dragged along along to work with them. It turns out they were well aware of this whole separation thing going on from the very beginning. Will and Jada must have just been waiting until the kids were financially independent and out of the house to finally call it quits. Something that they probably just should have done a lot sooner. Number 3. The roasting of Will and Jada. Chris Rock delivered the first ever live stand-up special on Netflix this year. Chris Rock's Selective Outrage was a title made in reference to Will Smith. His special was filled with a lot of jokes, but he closed out the night with a little roast of Will and Jada. He started by saying that he had nothing to do with the slap and that Will had selective outrage. Chris didn't have any entanglements, so why was Will so mad at him? But he then repeatedly called Will Smith a B-word and then moved on to roast Jada. He said that he was shocked when she attempted to have him removed as the host of the Oscars back in 2016 during the whole Oscars so white controversy, begging the question, how can Jada boycott something that she wasn't even invited to? The roasts were devastating and Chris Rock is most certainly the winner in that battle. Now, this has nothing to do with Will and Jada's marriage. I just figured if you made it this far into the video, you could use a little chuckle. Number 2. Chris and Will were friends. Before the infamous 2022 altercation at the Oscars, Chris Rock and Will Smith had actually been on pretty good speaking terms. Now, they weren't best friends by any means, but they certainly weren't mortal enemies prepared to strike each other down at the mention of one of their wives. They first met on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in its heyday when Rock played two characters, an actor named Maurice Perry and his sister Jasmine. They bumped into each other over the years, but Chris eventually starred alongside Jada in an animated series that I've been referencing called Madagascar. Fun fact, I didn't even know that she was in that movie growing up because I did not read the credits. I was too cool for that jazz. Between Madagascar 1 and the Oscars in 2022, things just were neutral. There was no bad juju, but then suddenly at the behest of his wife Jada, he felt it was necessary to stand up and defend her even though they weren't even together. So what's that about? And at number 1, PR stunt. As previously mentioned, it's no surprise that Jada has shared her juicy gossip only days before her new book is set to hit shelves, but many speculate that her entire life is just one big PR stunt. Over the years, she has been in the media for a lot of things, whether it's boycotting the Oscars, getting fired from her own talk show, or just the general nonsense that comes from this lady. She's a force in Hollywood and not a good one. This latest stunt is nothing more than a PR tactic and a way to continue her media presence. She just revealed some of the secrets in her book. When the thing actually comes out, who knows what else there will be in store. You probably will, once we do.
At number 10, we have her bringing Will on her podcast. Jada has a podcast with her mother and their shared daughter, and she has celebrity guest stars on it often as well. There was one point where she even decided to have Will on said podcast. But it wasn't just a get to know you kind of segment. She wanted to publicly record them talking about the issues in their relationship. As you can expect, she benefited from it, because she can be an awful person like that. And she was the only one of the two of them who felt like it helped emotionally and mentally. Will was distraught for most of the episode and just looked crushed and defeated throughout it. Of course, it went viral, and even now, the sad Will Smith memes are still fairly popular. The episode made it more than obvious that he's been really unhappy in his marriage, and we can't really blame him, honestly. It made the top of the list because Jada seemed so happy to be there and discussing the issues that humiliated him, even though she could clearly see how upset it made him. And if that doesn't sum up their marriage, I don't know what does. At number 8, we have her boyfriend sharing his side of the story. While she and Will were on an apparent break in their marriage, she decided it would be okay to have another relationship with rapper August Alsina, who happened to be one of her son's close friends. However, after rumors started circulating, he did an interview with Vulture and said that his coming clean about their relationship was to clear the air, and that it was necessary to move forward in their relationship together. On the opposite end of this, Jada was trying to cover it up for the duration of their fling, and when he let the cat out of the bag, she had nowhere to hide. I mean, who wouldn't want to hide when you're dating someone while still legally married and he happened to be 20 years younger than you? He agreed with Jada that their relationship was an entanglement because it was complex and taboo, and the only reason they didn't work out was because the news of their relationship was detrimental to his work life, not just his personal life. So not only did she embarrass Will by dating someone else while they were legally married, she embarrassed August and made his life extremely complicated, all for a few months of fun. At number 8, we have filming without Will's permission. This one is a little less drastic than some of the other points on the list, but she made Will very uncomfortable and didn't really understand what she was doing wrong. After the Chris Rock incident, people were going back through their media documented marriage moments just to see if she's done anything like that before, and a lot of people landed on one specific clip of Jada's Instagram Live from 2019. She was talking about their marriage counselor and faced the camera towards Will and asked if their counselor was really helping them redefine their marriage. He looked annoyed and rather uncomfortable, then responded with, "I would say just don't start filming without asking me first if you could." But instead of respecting his wishes, she continued to try and film his response, with limited success. So while she didn't embarrass him on live television, she did embarrass him on her Instagram Live. At number 7, we have attempting to defend their marriage. Jada has put her foot down a handful of times, stating that they didn't have an open relationship, but she had posted some Facebook comments and made comments that contradict that. On her Facebook page, she attempted to clear up the rumors and help the situation, but all it did was open a can of worms. She said that they had an unconventional marriage, and while they aren't in an open relationship, monogamy is something they choose. That isn't entirely true. Monogamy was something she chose. It was something that Will would follow through with through their entire marriage. He didn't run around with his kids' friends and then defend the relationship because they were on a break. She also said that they both had the option to do whatever they pleased because they trusted each other, which seemed like she was trying to shift the blame to make her look less like the bad guy. She finished the post by saying they did not have an open relationship, they have a grown one. This is contradictory in itself because her actions only made them grow apart rather than as a couple, and she was the only one in the relationship doing the growing. At number 6, we have her talking about their relationship issues. Like I had mentioned in an earlier point, Jada hosts a podcast with her mother and her daughter, which is called Red Table Talks, if you want to look for it. On one of the episodes they had recorded, she had the ever so hated Gwyneth Paltrow as a guest star. Part of their discussion was about intimacy, both in general and in their relationships. So in classic Jada fashion, she opened up about her intimacy issues with Will. Not only did she publicly have a long-term relationship with one of her son's friends, but she also had the nerve to blame their intimate issues on Will. She admitted she wanted him to read her mind to know what she liked, rather than communicating her feelings like an adult. She then claimed that she expects her partner to know what she likes, even if she never verbally shared how she felt, and finished off by saying she just somehow wasn't satisfied with him. Not only did she embarrass herself on her podcast, but she also embarrassed Will right along with her. At number 5, we have the clash with Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is known across the world for his music, his silly antics, his hefty interest in herbology, and for popping up in the most random places, like on a talk show with Kevin Hart, a cooking show with Martha Stewart, and a Bit commercial. Everyone knows who he is. So when Jada attempted to go toe-to-toe with him after Kobe Bryant's accident, it made everyone hide their eyes in secondhand embarrassment. After Bryant's passing, it came to light that he was in a court case for having lack of communication with a 19-year-old. This was before he married his wife, I might add. The case was dropped due to lack of evidence, and the accuser had nothing concrete. He then married his wife in 2001, so it had been almost 2 decades since the incident. Gayle King brought up the case during his wake, which was really disrespectful and uncalled for. It caused insane backlash from people and celebrities alike, and Snoop Dogg was one of them who made it very clear how he felt about the situation. Jada didn't like his response and invited him on her podcast in an attempt to clear things up. She claimed she felt hurt on behalf of all women because of the way he spoke to Gayle, and she felt like he had taken power away from her, her mother, and her daughter, which makes no sense. Gayle overstepped her boundary and Snoop called her on it. The situation had literally nothing to do with Jada. She just happened to see it and felt like she needed to be involved. At number 4, we have her mocking the party he threw. For Jada's 37th birthday, Will decided it would be a great idea to throw a massive surprise party. Now, it wasn't just their celebrity friends and some close family and what have you. He hired party planners to set it up and spent 3 days planning and getting everything ready. He even booked Mary J. Blige to perform for her. Talk about a birthday gift. left. But that's not all. He traced her family roots and invited her family members from her long line of lineage. Not only did he find her family, he went out of his way to reach out to them and invite them to the party. You'd think she would appreciate his labor of love, but instead she threw it back in his face, claiming he only did it to display his ego. And she hated the fact that he went out of his way to throw her the party. He admitted he was devastated when she said those hurtful things, and it even sent him on a downward spiral that negatively impacted his life. This should have been one of the biggest of many red flags. At number 3, we have her feelings for Tupac. For those of you who don't know, Jada was in a long-term relationship with Tupac years before she met Will, and his untimely passing was the end of their relationship. It's normal and even healthy to miss someone who passed, especially when you were romantically involved with them for a few years. But in 2012, while she and Will were still married, she posted a picture of her and Tupac in a very intimate embrace and captioned the photo, "I miss him." It makes sense wanting to share your deep feelings with the world, especially when they're affecting you most. But it was a questionable photo to choose to post, especially when you're married to someone else. Not to mention, Will and Jada's daughter Willow wrote a letter addressed to Tupac after he passed because Willow claimed she knew he was still alive. One of the lines in the letter read, "Can you please come back so mommy and me can be happy? I think mommy really misses you." It seems sweet and rather innocent, but at a young age, she was aware of how much he still had a hold on Jada, and she wanted him to come back into their lives, which at that point seemed like it could have been the end of Will and Jada's marriage. Nothing came of it, obviously, but it makes you question how much Willow really knew about the situation. At number 2, we have how she never really wanted to marry Will. When you get married to someone, it's supposed to be forever. That's the point of marriage, is to link two people's lives together for a lifelong commitment of love and trust. So it's less surprising what Jada did in their marriage when she admitted she never really wanted to get married. She and Will got married when they were very young, and it was actually Jada's mother who pressured her into the marriage because she really liked Will and saw the potential in him. However, that decision aged poorly because of her heinous actions that I covered in some of the points above. For Will's birthday, she posted a fairly old photo of them with their 2 kids and one of Jada's sons from one of her previous relationships. Many fans sent birthday wishes, but there were a few who made snarky remarks and rehashed lines from Red Table Talks, contradicting the post. Some people commented on how she didn't love him romantically, and a clip came up of her saying how she cried all the way down the aisle because she didn't want to be married to him, and how she felt pressure to be wed even though she never wanted to be married in general. At least she's happy with him 28 years later with multiple affairs and many humiliating moments for both of them. And last but not least, at number 1, we have the slap. Of course, the infamous slap made number 1. The situation went down at the 94th Academy Awards, and that same evening, Will actually won the Best Actor award for his performance in King Richard. But that wasn't the only performance that night. He and Jada were sitting relatively close to the front when Chris Rock was on the stage accepting an award and made a joke directed at Jada. He was referencing her bald head when he asked if she was going to be in G.I. Jane. Will laughed because Chris Rock is funny, and Jada wasn't having it. She rolled her eyes and looked at Will with a piercing gaze because she wanted him to do something about it. So he waltzed up on stage and gave Chris Rock a full swing slap to the face, then proceeded to yell at him, saying to keep Jada's name out of his mouth. Of course, the meme circulated and everyone heard about it. But Jada came out later saying that she'd been struggling with alopecia for years, and at this point, all she could do was laugh or not take it to heart. Neither of which she did when she ended up getting her and her husband blacklisted from the Academy Awards.
For those of you who may not know, Jada ran a talk show for roughly 5 years called Red Table Talk. Unless you were glued to Facebook Watch, you probably missed this one. In 2018, Jada invited her mother Adrienne Banfield Norris and daughter Willow Smith to join her in an open conversation spanning 3 generations of women. Unfortunately, the series tended to drift into too much information territory, discussing topics between family that really should not be discussed with family. Another rough part of the series was that Jada would often bring in celebrity guests to also discuss these topics, as well as confront any issues that there may have been between them. She even brought her husband Will on the air at one point to discuss the infidelity scandals that had plagued their entire relationship. One of the most uncomfortable interviews in the show's history. And that's saying something. It was decided in April of this year that Red Table Talk would be cancelled and removed from the platform. When you have a show that you not only starred in but created from top to bottom, it's 100% your fault when it's eventually cancelled. The show is currently looking for a new home in the world of streaming, but has yet to land on one. Thankfully. Number 9. Cleopatra. The ill-fated TV series Cleopatra hit the air this year and received some of the worst reviews in human history. The show, produced and narrated by Jada, was released on Netflix and it quickly became one of the most mocked properties on the platform. The series starred a black actress named Adele James in the role of the titular Egyptian, causing many fans to call the casting choice cultural appropriation. Ironically though, Cleopatra has almost always been played by a non-Egyptian actor, with Elizabeth Taylor being the most famous portrayal of all time. On top of the controversial casting choice, the overall show was horrible. Many complaints centered around the lazy dialogue, the terrible acting, and the historical inaccuracies, with a ton of the show being set in the wrong time period while claiming to be a historical series. Netflix had to deal with a lot of hardships thanks to the show, literally turning off the comments for the trailer due to the alarming amount of racially fueled and hostile commentary. The show sits at a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes and is unfortunately one of the few production gigs that Jada has under her belt. When a show that could have been great tanks hard, Hollywood tends to blame the person who made the thing. Number 8. The cheating scandals. For a long time now, Will and Jada have attempted to hide their various marriage misdeeds, but they've never truly been successful. While both were rumored to have been cheating on each other multiple times, it was Jada who was actually confirmed to be the cheater pumpkin eater. While rumors had been circulating that Will was romantically involved with his co-star Margot Robbie from Focus, those were quickly laid to rest. However, Jada was most certainly cheating on Will several times over the years, with her Hawthorne co-star Mark Anthony and musician August Alsina, and probably a few other people. The proof? Well, Will walked in on Jada and Mark getting busy, and Will was reduced to tears. While they were able to hide it at the time, the conversation that took place between herself and Will on Red Table Talk was quite revealing. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to cast someone who is known for causing trouble in my movie. Number 7. After Earth. In 2013, Jada helped to produce a film starring her husband Will and son Jaden Smith. Will Smith came up with the idea for After Earth while watching a science show on TV, and eventually that evolved into a science fiction story that takes place in the year 1000 AE, or 1000 years after the human race has left the planet because of pollution and global warming. The plot features a father and his teenage son who crash land on Earth. The teenager must save his injured father on what has become a hostile planet. Now, Smith developed the movie as a star vehicle for his 14-year-old son Jaden. The actor sold his post-apocalyptic vision to M. Night Shyamalan to direct, and this high-budget vanity project was a family affair, with Jaden, Will, Jada, and even her brother Caleb Pinkett being key members of the production. The $130 million Smith family affair hit the big screen in 2013 and was instantly met with harsh criticism, scoring 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics lambasted pretty much every single detail, including a plot that was generally regarded as boring and lifeless. Number 6. Her biases. When the Oscars So White controversy erupted in 2016, Will and Jada were among the most vocal critics of the Academy. For the second year in a row, all 20 of the actors nominated in the lead and supporting roles category were white, something that had not happened since 1998. Jada released a much publicized video explaining why she was boycotting the Oscars that year, hoping to shine a spotlight on institutional racism. However, the majority of Hollywood did not appreciate the things that she was saying about them. Not to mention, during an episode of her own talk show, the actress confessed that she has a tendency to judge others based on their race, revealing she specifically had a problem with white blonde women. According to Jada herself, blonde hair on a woman just kinda sets her off, and she's had to hold herself back a few times. She went on to reveal that she actually turned down several interviews over the years simply because the interviewer was a white blonde lady. She claims that her bias is due to her history of being bullied by women with those physical traits growing up. Regardless of why she hates them, blonde white women make up a lot of Hollywood these days, so it makes sense that Jada would be slapped on the do not hire list. Number 5. neglectful parent. Rumors have been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. At a young age, Jaden was on track to become an A-list actor after starring in the 2008 remake of the classic Karate Kid movie alongside martial arts and opera legend Jackie Chan. But he later shifted his focus to a more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which has gotten him a lot of success. His sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots, however, and she made quite a name for herself in the hip-hop genre. Unfortunately, their independent behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling them out on their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers, they were never home to care for the youngsters. Jaden and Willow recounted spending most of their childhood with nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents when they were working with them on projects or in between things, like when Jaden and Will were working together in the pursuit of happiness. Willow has backed up her brother's story, claiming that the parenting skills forced them to become mentally mature at a very young age, which may play some part in Jaden being so successful at 24. Despite appearing to be a happy family unit in the media, the reality is that Jaden and Willow have been raising themselves for a very long time, just making Jada look even worse than she already was. Number 4. The Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor is a comedy classic from the legendary performer Eddie Murphy, based on a film from 1963 of the same name starring Jerry Lewis as the leading man. In the 1996 remake, Jada Pinkett Smith portrayed Eddie's love interest Carla Purdy, and despite the film being a lighthearted romp sharing the message of self-love, people hated her in that role. Of all the actors on the screen, Jada is the most out of place. While there wasn't a slew of massive A-listers on command, the cast involved did a great job and everyone had their own little memorable moments. However, Jada is just kind of there. Jada's acting career has been limited over the years, and for good reason. Especially when you put her next to a comedy legend like Eddie frickin' Murphy. That's like putting Jim Carrey and a tired sloth in a room together and telling them to have a rap battle. Jim Carrey wins every time. Her performance in the film was enough to make securing work in the following years difficult, but as you'll see, Hollywood gave her a second chance time and time again. Number 3. Gotham. Gotham is an underappreciated series from the world of DC set in Gotham City before Bruce Wayne even becomes Batman. We follow a young Jim Gordon as he deals with the criminals roaming Gotham streets. People like the Riddler, the Penguin, and of course Jada Pinkett Smith as mob boss Fish Mooney. Fish. DC is fantastic with names. The character acted as the frenemy to the Penguin, but whenever Jada was next to her co-star Robin Lord Taylor, she was outshined every time. In fact, she was outshined by everyone on the show. Her character was meant to be a scary bad guy that strikes fear into the hearts of those who encounter her, but instead, Jada delivered a monotone performance that the producers quickly noticed. By the end of season 3, Fish was written out of the story and left to rot on a dock. Number 2. Scream 2. Now, Scream 2 is not a bad movie. I'm just gonna start by saying that. The Scream franchise is considered to be one of the best horror series of all time. Ghostface is iconic, and so is Jada's only good scene in this movie, when she's taken out by Ghostface. In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith plays one of the ill-fated teens, Maureen Evans. While this was actually one of her few decent performances over the years, spoiler alert, her character does not make it to the end of this movie. Oh wait, I already said that. Oops! She is taken out in a very graphic and public fashion. While watching the fictional Scream film in theaters, Jada cuddles up to who she thinks is her boyfriend, but it's actually just Ghostface in disguise. She gets repeatedly jabbed while the same thing is happening to a character on screen. While this was one of the better scenes in Scream's history, it was the only scene where Jada came across as a good actor. The argument can be made that most young actors just play themselves on screen, but sometimes it feels like Jada forgot that the cameras were even on. At number 1, she manipulates. Many things about Jada's personality made celebrities speculate that she may have a hidden evil personality deep inside of her. Well, the Oscar ceremony that took place in 2022 kind of proved that she has a silver tongue. After host Chris Rock made a joke about Jada's balding head, Will Smith initially laughed, but then he looks at Jada, who is seen rolling her eyes and giving him a look of disappointment. The look was enough to force Will's smile away and cause him to do a complete 180, taking the stage to defend his wife. Jada is 100% the reason that situation took place, despite claiming that she can't make Will do anything. She does have the power to say, "Hey honey, I'm okay, you can leave Chris Rock alone." Instead, she just kind of sat back, watched, and laughed maniacally, so the only thing she's gonna be acting in anytime soon is a therapist's office. Number 10. She made Snoop Dogg cry. Just after Kobe Bryant passed away in 2020, Snoop Dogg was quick to call out Gayle King after she stated in a TV interview that in the past Kobe was accused of making unwanted advances on a woman that wasn't his wife. In an Instagram video, Snoop Dogg would call out King, and in the process he insulted King's appearance before telling her to back off B before we come and get you. As a result of the outburst, instead of having a private conversation with her close friend, she brought Snoop Dogg on her Red Table Talk show where she just embarrassed him, not just in front of her mother and her daughter, but in front of the entire world. After she told the rapper that she felt hurt on behalf of all women when she watched the video of him going after Gayle. As a result, Snoop would be so embarrassed that he'd make another video on Instagram where he'd apologize to King by saying, "Hey, when you're wrong, you gotta fix it. This was a derogatory manner based off of emotions. I was raised better than that, so I'd like to apologize to you publicly for the language I used." Jada somehow made Snoop Dogg retract a statement and cry on camera. That man is a sweetheart, but he can be terrifying when he wants to be. Number 9. Shutting down open marriage rumors. The Smiths have received a lot of scrutiny over their marriage. In 2009, Jada Pinkett Smith addressed the rumors, bluntly telling Atlanta's Q100 that she's heard all of the things, their marriage is not real, that Will is gay, that she's gay, that they swing, all this fun stuff. The actor then dismissed the idea that they had anything to prove, and per Us Weekly, she added that people were going to think whatever they wanted. In 2013, her comments to Huffington Post Live only made the situation 10 times worse. She insisted that Will and herself had no claim over each other's lives. She always told Will that he can do whatever he wants so long as he can look himself in the mirror and be okay. So I guess after the Oscars slap, he just went home and he was like, "Yeah, I'm good." She continues to say they can both do whatever they want because they trust each other, but clarified that that did not mean they had an open marriage. While denying this in 2009, in recent years, Will has mentioned that monogamy was a large part of their relationship for a long time, claiming the trust they have meant freedom to find their own way, as they didn't want marriage to be a prison. So he literally confirms that they now have an open marriage. Probably just waited for the kids to get out of the house before getting a little busy. Number 8. Bonding with Tupac. Decades after Tupac's passing, people still had questions about Jada's relationship to Mr. Pac. While doing an interview on Sway Universe, she weighed in on her relationship with Tupac, saying that she first met Tupac when she was a purveyor of narcotics, continuing to explain that that was how they first bonded. She clarified that something terrible made her leave the world behind, but that she had already introduced Shakur to the scene. As she got out, he got deeper in. She claimed that they were close for many years, even claiming to have paid a bail of $100 grand after Tupac was held for possible mistreatment charges. What makes their relationship even more questionable is Will Smith expressing his jealousy towards this late rapper. Will claimed that while things never actually got physical, their love for each other was legendary. The interview only made it seem like Jada had a ton of skeletons in her closet that were yet to be revealed. And hey, look how right we were. Number 7. Weird science. Although Jada has tried to claim that she isn't a member of the Church of Science, she's been connected to the controversial religion for years, to a point where even an ex-scientist named Leah Remini told the Daily Beast in 2017 that she knew who Jada was. She's been involved with the church for quite some time, claiming to have never seen Will there, but definitely seeing Jada at the Celebrity Center. Leah would later appear alongside Jada in 2018 for Jada's Red Table Talk show, where the pair settled their dispute. Jada claimed that the stories were outlandish, but that she did actually attend some of the events. I mean, if she had just said that in the first place, there might not have been so much speculation from the internet. The moment went viral, and she is now regularly associated with the works of one L. Ron Hubbard. Number 6. Bad mom. Parenting rumors have been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. Their upbringing was nothing to scoff at. Jaden was on track to being an actor after being in The Karate Kid alongside martial arts legend and opera legend Jackie Chan, but he later shifted his focus to the more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which has made him a massive success. success. His sister Willow opted to stick with the creative roots, however, and has made quite the name for herself in the hip-hop world. Now, unfortunately, their behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden actually confronted his parents, calling them terrible right on camera. With both being so busy in their careers, they were never home to care for their youngsters. Jada and Willow recount spending most of their childhood with nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents between projects or if they were working with them, like when Jaden and Will were in the pursuit of happiness. Willow has backed up her brother's story, claiming that the parenting skills forced them to be mentally mature at a very young age, which is probably why they're both so successful in their 20s. Despite appearing to be a happy family unit in the media, the reality was that Jaden and Willow had been raising themselves for a very long time. Number 5. The entanglement. The world was shocked when R&B singer August Alsina came forward to admit that he had an affair with Jada Pinkett Smith in 2015. During an interview, he claimed that he actually sat down with Will Smith and received his blessing due to the nature of their relationship. He insisted that the couple had nothing to be ashamed of and that he loved the Smith family. Now, while Will Smith denied ever giving him a blessing, Jada admitted to the entanglement on Red Table Talk. She explained to her husband that it was a moment that she regretted, all the while referring to her infidelity as an entanglement. Like 2 Christmas lights in a box, just entangled. While many were of course confused as to why she would admit this on the internet for millions of people, they also started to wonder if she might have taken advantage of August. At the time, he was 22 and he had struggled with his health, suffering from an autoimmune condition that left him hospitalized multiple times. Jada even admitted to being his mentor. I don't know, that sounds pretty weird for a mentor-mentee relationship to me. Number 4. The slap. Many things about Jada's personality has made celebrities speculate that she might be some kind of this hidden, evil, super sorcerer woman who can control people. Well, the Oscar ceremony that took place in 2022 proved that she might have a silver tongue. After host Chris Rock made a joke about Jada's balding head, Will Smith initially laughs, but then Jada gives him this eye roll and this look of disappointment. The look was enough to force Will's smile away and cause him to do a complete 180. He took the stage to defend his wife, and Jada is 100% the reason that took place. Despite claiming that she can't make Will do anything, she does have the power to say, hey, please don't smack Chris Rock, I'm not that mad. Instead, she just kind of sat back and watched and laughed maniacally. The only thing she's going to be acting in anytime soon is a therapist's office. Number 3. Scream 2. I want to start this entry by saying Scream 2 is not a bad movie, okay? The Scream franchise is considered to be one of the best horror series of all time. Ghostface is iconic, and so is Jada's only good scene in the movie, when she's taken out by Ghostface. In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith plays one of the ill-fated teens, Maureen Evans. While this was actually one of her few decent performances over the years, spoiler alert, her character doesn't make it to the end of the movie. Oh wait, I said that at the start of the entry. My bad. She is taken out in a very graphic and public fashion. While watching the fictional Scream film in theaters, Jada cuddles up to who she thinks is her boyfriend, but it's actually just Ghostface in disguise. She gets repeatedly jabbed while the same thing is happening to the character on screen. While this was one of the better scenes in Scream history, it was the only scene where Jada actually came across as a good actor. The argument can be made that most young actors just kind of play themselves on screen, but this one just kind of felt like Jada forgot the camera was rolling. Number 2. Cleopatra. The ill-fated TV series Cleopatra hit the air this year, and it got some of the worst reviews in human history. The show was produced and narrated by Jada, and it was released on Netflix, quickly becoming one of the most mocked properties on the platform. The series starred a black actress named Adele James in the role of the titular Egyptian, which caused many fans to call the casting choice cultural appropriation. Which is funny because Cleopatra has almost always been played by a non-Egyptian actor. Elizabeth Taylor is the most famous portrayal of all time. On top of the controversial casting choice, the overall show was apparently horrible. Many complaints centered around the lazy dialogue, terrible acting, and historical inaccuracies, with a ton of the show being set in the wrong time period while claiming to be a historical series. Netflix actually had to deal with a lot of hardships thanks to this show, literally turning off comments on the trailer due to the alarming amount of racially fueled and hostile comments. The show sits at a 2% on Rotten Tomato and is unfortunately one of the few projects that Jada has under her belt, which is not a great look when a show you built from the ground up is cancelled first round out. And at number 1, she claims she's in the right. When it comes to Jada admitting defeat, it's not something that she does. No, do not do that. Of course, Jada is aware of all the public backlash and overall hate she's been receiving the past few years, but she continues to deny. During an episode of Red Table Talk while discussing her relationship issues with Will Smith, she mentions the fact that she does not understand why there's so much hate towards her because she's done nothing wrong. Jada had a talk show where she'd literally contradict herself regularly. Sometimes she would just flat out lie about stuff. People were coming on her show being like, actually, so it's no surprise. This is taking the top spot because it's not one specific moment caught on camera. This is a culmination of all of the moments just wrapped into a bow.